First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. This is really a pleasure. My name is Jorge Hidalgo. I'm based out of Malaga in the very nice, beautiful south coast of Spain. So you're all welcome here anytime. I work professionally in Accenture, where I'm a director of software engineering. Well, I started as a junior programmer with C, Visual Basic, then started with Java, and then, of course, many things have happened since then, but Java has been kind of the baseline of my career. I'm also very honored to be a Java champion, which in part I think is this recognition of people working long time with Java and more importantly, contributing back to the community, which is also I think an important part of what I like to do, which is, of course, work with my clients, with my teams, but also give back with the communities, with meetups, conferences, etc. So that's a bit of who I am.
Very good. And we have Jonathan with us today.
Well, hello, I'm Jonathan. I work as developer advocate for Sonar, company behind SonarCube, but I'm also Java champion as Jorge here. I'm based in Barcelona, the beautiful Spain. And I also have a connection with community, with the Java community here in Barcelona, and also with few conferences that I also organize. And I'm super happy to start this podcast with a very special person for me that it is Jorge. So happy.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. So I will start with you already introduced yourself, but yeah, can you please describe what was the trigger that put you in technology? So why you are what you are and not, I don't know, a painter or a musician?
This all started in the 80s, right?
Okay.
Since I was very young, I always loved like technology. At that moment we didn't have computers, but we have like I will remember this sound recorder with cassettes, and I recorded everything, and I liked to just to use buttons, etc. And then all the usual stuff that you have in the 80s in the TVs, like the Knight Rider series and all these kind of things, always high tech. So I always kind of get attracted, to technology. And then I remember, when the home computers started to come, and always feel like attracted. And then the main culprit is this one, this beautiful thing here, which is this Amstrad PCW. It was my first computer, and that was when I really started to work hands-on, start to learn programming languages, start to play games, start to do the homework in the computer, and always be attracted to that, So at some point, actually wanted to be a professor, but at some point when being a professor was really not easy because of the opportunities, that's what I'm not sure how, but I naturally orbited into technology and programming. So
interesting.
It all started in the 80s, like probably many of us.
In my case, it started with War Games movie. So I saw that movie and then I wanted to be that guy. Yeah. But you also have a very strong presence in the community. I will ask you to talk briefly about this because I know that you have a lot of to talk about with communities. So which are at least the 2-3 main communities that you are involved on? Because I know you are involved in several. So which is your connection to community?
Well, my connection is, I think that's part of this desire that I always had, like being a professor has also a connection. No? I like to give back, and I like to share what I experimented. But also with time, I also learned that if I want to really, really deep dive into something, try to distill all the things that I'm doing professionally and try to get something valuable from that, if I committed to do something for the community, it was like the perfect excuse to dedicate the time because I've already committed to do that. But because if not, you will just be in the dynamic of one project, next one project, and etc.
Yeah.
And once I started doing that, I really like it. And I give back to the community, but I also get a lot from that, interacting with the people, people like you, like many others. So that's incredible. Of course, we need to balance, Like all the things that we like, we have this risk of just getting too overcommitted and forgetting other things. But still involved with the Malaga Java user group. We don't meet as frequently as we would like, but as usually happens with communities, this comes with cycles. When people like it, when people need it, we will be there, but at least try to still doing things periodically. I also collaborate a lot here in Malaga with the Malaga AI meetup because it's logical. AI is converging in no matter even your technology of choice, everything flows into the AI. So we all have a lot of things to share and to learn from others. So I also work a lot with this meetup and doing things with them. I'm also collaborating a lot with CodeMotion as an ambassador and helping to, as program committee, to their conference. And then as much as possible, I involve with other communities in meetups, in conferences, mostly in Spain, okay, because it's easier to just move here around the country. But sometimes I'm also collaborating
Yeah.
things outside Spain.
I know that you are also part of the organization of Open South Code.
Sure.
Well, for me, it's an amazing conference, the only one in the world that you can eat espetos, and it's amazing the vibe that you can feel there. But I also know that you are a regular speaker around. You recently were in OpenSlava, right? So, well, what do you think the communities are they still relevant or are more relevant now that we have AI? Try to give a sentence about this.
Okay. Yes, I want to. I mean, this connects not prepared. Okay, so the audience need to share. This was not prepared, but connect perfectly with your comment about open source code. No, so why I get involved in open source code? No, like a local conference down from the different communities. So we join efforts, a lot of communities, etc., with this spirit of giving back. No, and then of course we come the AI and we do a lot of things. You know that there is a special part of open source code which is open source kits. So it's as part of the conference we have all Saturday morning around 4 or 5 hours a track specifically for kids and teenagers. So I think that this is a very important part of the communities, not just target on the professionals, on the people with lots of experience, even not targeting just students. No, we also can play a part and an important part in getting technology near to the kids, to the teenagers, not because they are all going to be engineers in the future, but because technology is so pervasive around us. Everything is moved by technology and everything is moved by software. So we all need to know what does it mean. No? And AI is no exception. No? So that's, for example, 2 years ago, we added some workshops with some of our great collaborators like Fripic, like others here, no? To teach the kids how to use responsibly AI, how to use it effectively. That should be part. No? And I think that communities with this reach, we have to be close to the people of all ages. We need to play a good role in that. If we are just doomerists, we will probably do in the opposite. I think that we need to be frank and open and get people to know more about it and even the kids. That part I love a lot.
I know.
Yeah, and it's really linked. It's really linked to the question that we have for you regarding the future and how how would you advise like children right now and in order to be prepared for the future. So we come back on that. I wanted to jump on that. It's a good transition to the technology part of it, of this interview, because well you work at Accenture and you say that, and you have seen probably a lot of AI projects already, and we'd like to know, like, what is to your mind the most really innovative AI project you have been working on?
Okay, well, it's hard to tell because in just 2 years, everything has been really cutting edge.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a great moment to be a software engineer and an architect because, yeah, it's like something completely new. And even if we get impressive building blocks from vendors, from the open source communities, we really have everything to be done. So it's hard to tell because all of them has been very, very innovative. But I will say that they all have something in common, which is if we want to do AI at a scale in an organization, we need to have very solid roots for that. And we need to define a very clear foundation. And very positively, at least in my experience, is that we are building all that vision on top of everything that we've learned in the last 10 years about platform engineering. Platform as products and how to incept, design, and implement, and then scale internally and treat them as a product for the rest of the organization to use. And now we build that with AI in mind. No? But AI is, comes with a lot of new things that we need to learn. So it's not just creating the usual platform. But we are really building on top of all that we have learned, which is great because this means that now we can be moving faster and focusing on what's specific for AI, what do we need, like runtimes, guardrails, memory, all the kind of things that you need to put into a platform for really scaling up. And this is really the key, no? Because yes, we have incredible products, but to be practical and to be able to scale, we cannot really expect that every single person is going to hand crank their agents. We need to facilitate that and to scale up things. And that's really the common point of what we are doing and actually what I'm currently doing, no, with our clients.
So the implementation of AI really benefits from the work you've done on platform engineering all these years before. That's what you say?
Yeah, correct. Because at the end of the day, yes, we may have our agents and we may have agents calling agents, and then we may have agents accessing data, and then we have agents calling tools. But at the end of the day, we can deploy this in the hard way, but we've learned that if we containerize the workloads, we have a better way to package and scale things because we have common standards. So Docker, Kubernetes, those are omnipresent things. We've learned a lot on how to scale up platforms, multi-tenant, fleets, all these kind of patterns still are relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really happy that all this previous experience has really prepared for that because now with AI, the expectative is that we need to be fast. So we cannot start from zero. No? And that's great, to have all this base solidly helping us to create this.
So do you have an example of AI, let's say, employee facing or customer facing project that has been complex to implement? It just really for us to understand what was the complexity, what was the problem you were trying to solve, and how do you overcome these challenges?
Okay. In terms of challenges, there are many, not all of them technical.
What are
So,
they? What are the main way?
of course, there are a lot of technical issues, no, on how to use it, how to use it responsibly, what are the local legislations. We also had a lot of concerns with the client about where is the data, where are the models, is my data going to be used, is my interactions with the agents going to be used to retrain, for example. So all these kind of uncertainties is always part of the conversations, no, that we have. I'm not the expert there, so I know that we have these problems, and there are, of course, people experimented with that and really working into solving all that. At the same time, I know that the movement from many of the vendors to start creating completely isolated copies sort of in Europe is going to help a lot on that, specifically for European clients. But those are kind of challenges that we always have. And then, of course, we have the change management challenge, which is you may have the platform, you may have everything perfectly abstracted, all the complexity hidden away by the platform. But at the end of the day, you need to have people that are doing their job and they need to start doing things differently, completely rethinking what they are doing and trying to translate their processes, their ways of working into agents and swarms of agents and group of agents. No? That's I think the main challenge. Even not technology, but how we ensure that people really understand all these powerful tools that they now have available, but at the same time that they cannot expect for someone else to bring in the tool with a manual. This is likely not going to happen all the time. So it's most of the time I give you the platform, I give you all the tooling, I give you the guardrail so you can do it safely. But most of the time it's the people that really need to try to get everything that they have in their heads, no, the ways of working, the processes, and try to put them into a meaningful agent. No? And that's always a challenge. It's part of the work we do. Okay, we work platform, of course, and that's where I am primarily involved. But we also have people that are really experienced in how we can get all this knowledge, all these precious experiences, and try to transform them into something profitable, so to speak.
So you would say the change management part is one key part not to forget.
Yeah, completely. It should be part of the strategy. It should be part of an investment from day zero. Even if you're not building your own platform, you just get an existing platform from one of the vendors that are there. Okay, not to mention one of them, but you will figure out. You can start from day zero to create your agents and your agent workflows without needing anything. You just go to the cloud hyperscaler and you have nearly everything that you need. when you see that technology kinds to be solved, at least the foundations are solved, and then you, of course, like we do, we build incredible things on top of that, is when you realize that, yeah, we have all the tools, but if people don't know how to use them, don't realize the importance of using them, yeah, challenge management should be part of the beginning, not the after.
Yeah. So, I like what you said about two different types of issues. So the technical ones, I would say most of the people are focused on technical problems. But as we faced with microservices, most of the issues are not always technical. So they are organizational and people. So I'm kind of very interested on knowing from your point of view, which are the best practices that Accenture is taking in order to mitigate issues or try to be in the safe place when you are using AI in your software development lifecycle. I mean, from the technical point of view and also from the people or the managing point of view. And I like what you said about legal things. So this is also very important to consider, that you are not doing AI out of in the universe. So you are doing it in somewhere. So some laws, restrictions apply to your software too. So I would like to know which are the best practices.
Okay, I will not dare to say best practices because we are still learning. Okay, but
Practices.
one of the things that's, I mean, wow, that's a lot of things. Probably we need just a different podcast just for that, no? But I will, if I will need to summarize, I will say first, as mentioned before, all the basic principles that we've learned with platform engineering to solve availability, resilience, logging, auditing, tracing, all those things need to be there from day zero. We have the right tools. It's just a matter of not forget about that. No, with that we solve a lot of problems like workload isolation, workload scaling, scaling out, all these things we can solve them. Then
so you mean traditional tools, traditional practices?
Yeah, and we don't. There is no AI in that, but that's the foundation. We never forget our core behavior, so to speak. But then, of course, there are new things, no? So, for example, one of the main important things that I think, not best practices, but something that I really think that is key is to have guardrails since the beginning, okay? And you can start small. You can be very humble, and your guardrails could be just regular expressions or just a basic that we already have. Evaluating frameworks, no? Identify if my agents are drifting too much from what I expect to be the golden pattern. This is a challenge because this is not a typical unit test that if I input 1, I get null, but if I input 0, I get 1. You need to work that. But the good thing is that now we have tooling that knows about that, no? That now start to ensure that your agent is doing right. You need to, let's say, and like hundreds of prompts with different variations and then measure all the handfuls of responses and try to get the variation. So this is very important. Even if you start small with just this very basic drift detection, that's great because since the beginning, you know that guardrails is important and you need to ensure that your inputs are clean and you need to know that your outputs are as well clean, no? So don't happen like recently with this new big bells and whistles browser, no, with AI embedded that is sometimes tricked by hidden text in white that makes instructions to go away and do things that you don't want to do. Those are simple things that you can add. So that's important. So again, I will not dare to say a best practice, but something that should be always there present since day one.
Yeah.
And then of course, you start to work on top of that, no? And then you start to add more advanced guardrails like no bias for age, no bias for religion, no bias for race, for all these kind of things. But always guardrails since the beginning.
I see your point about the guardrails in order to guarantee that the response from the LLM or the agent is kind of in the scope of what you want. But I'm curious about, do you do any special thing with the code that AI has generated? Well, compared to traditional code in terms of, security, quality, and I mean.
Okay. So yes, when we focus on specifically AI in the development life cycle, probably the short question is there's nothing different to do. Okay. I mean, like happen when humans work with humans that we say you delegate the task but not the responsibility. The same happened with AI. Okay. So if I have my AI agent even if it is an autonomous agent doing things for me, relieving of the boring, repetitive stuff or the simple stuff so I can focus on something which is really more important that my creativity and my knowledge of the business can solve. Still, that is my code. So I'm responsible for reviewing it. I'm responsible for ensuring that it is okay. And more importantly, the commit is not by the AI, it's my commit. So the next commit is my commit. So I'm responsible for that. It's my name who is in that commit. But at the same time, core behaviors, which means that every single commit, ideally, every single commit before it is merged at the pull request time or merge request time is going to be analyzed. So you are going to integrate that code, you are going to compile it, package it, transpile it. You are going to look the code quality, you are going to look for possible vulnerabilities, you are going to check for versions that are not out to date or with non-vulnerabilities. You are going to do the unit testing. If you are going to deploy that into some server to do end-to-end testing. Those are our core behaviors. We cannot forget about them, even if the code is done by the AI. It's even more important because now we have this ability to create much more code in the same space of time. So this automation to ensure that this code is always great based on the standard is more important because we need to be sincere. We are not going to have all the needed time to review every single change line by line. And the best way to trust that the code that comes from the AI is correct is that we have the right tests, we have the right coding standards, we have the right security standard, etc. And that really shift left quality and security is there for sure. Okay, because if not, we are just going to be completely overloaded with reviews, and that's a risk that I just accept blindly everything that comes. But the next commit is my commit. It's not an AI commit. It's my name that goes into the version control.
I think that's the key point here. It's that it is your name. Unless you use an agentic code production chain with impersonation or with agents accounts, and then we can start a different path of uncertainty.
Yeah, and who knows, in 20 years, I have a vision sometimes that maybe in 20 years, we really don't code anymore. The same that we today don't write assembler or we don't write code to manage memory, We know that a lot of things that we just let it go to the machines to do for ourselves, and they do better. So who knows in 20 years, even if software is constantly rewritten and improving and etc., and we just focus on requirements and specification and acceptance criteria, who knows? But at least for now, and at least for the time being and in the next 2 to 5 years, we are going to have all these coding agents working for us, but it's our responsibility and it's our names that goes into the commit. And we delegate the task, but never the responsibility. And we should always be very present about that. It's still our responsibility.
That's very important. Let me ask you one thing. You said using best practices or the core foundation thing. Do you also rely or think tooling in all of these checks is important, or we can just do it on ourselves?
Okay. Again, I think that there are always two parts of this. Of course, as a developer, myself, my team, we have the responsibility to ensure that our code is the best as possible and, of course, is fit for purpose. So in that, the LLMs can also play a significant role. Even before the code leaves my computer, I can use AI to ensure that it works well. So all the copilots and different tooling are not only capable of creating new code or modifying my existing code, they are also very capable of assessing the current state of my code, checking if it is following solid best practices or if it is some known vulnerability in that code, if I'm doing nasty things. So all those things can happen even before the code leaves my computer. And we have all the power because really we have a lot of tools, in coding assistance in many different companies. I'm sure every one of us has a preference, but the important thing is behavior over tool. Do you do the right thing? Pick the tool that you want and you feel more familiar, or the one that the organization that you work with gives to you. But the important thing is the behavior. So I would think this all starts in my local computer. Okay? But that never will substitute to have all the pipelines and workflows to ensure that even if someone forgets, because we are human, we forget things, we like to take shortcuts. When we are pressed, we tend to, reduce something. So just to be sure that we are consistent and we are doing always what is expected, that will never replace to have solid pipelines, solid workflows with all the tooling that are really there to give us the peace of mind that our code is right.
Oh, so you say that the confidence, you don't rely on AI. You rely on deterministic tools in order to give the confidence for your pipeline.
And if I use the AI to help me do my job, no, creating and verifying or even planning, which is something that the coding assistants are getting much better right now. Okay, so I can use them to help me with planning my next tools. Even if I am just coding the stuff, but even if I do all the, let's say, life cycle help with tools, with AI tools, that will never replace to have this level of certainty, because we know what are the limitations of an LLM. We know that LLMs are autoregressive, so we know that they have the limitations. But at the same time, with this, we need to be highly spirited with them, because even if they fail, if we know we can put the necessary means to ensure that those fails don't get to production, so to speak. And they are improving, but never replace the certainty that you get with the deterministic tools like unit testing, static code analysis, vulnerability dependency analysis. All these things are there, are core behaviors, and cannot never be just removed out of the way.
Do you
Okay.
do you see a difference in the, let's say, how critical is the code between, let's say, regular application and code that is used for AI project that will touch LLM and the database? Do you handle this type of code differently from a, let's say, a review or security perspective, or is it the exact same things than any kind of other code?
No differences, as strict as with any other. Okay, there is no shortcuts, shortcuts, no relaxation. Okay? So as strict as we ever be. So if, for example, one of the clients we're working currently, they have very strict standards for unit testing, coverage, etc. Every code, even if it is part of a platform, everything is part of this standard. So no relaxation, never.
And have you seen even more so even more constraints due to having AI generated code, or is it the same?
Not in the code itself, but connected with one of the things that I commented before, yes, testing is very different. When you are creating AI-based products and your agents, and especially when you are starting to do complex things, when you have multiple agents collaborating for a complex task, etc., really testing is very different. The testing is also more stochastic. You need to create like hundreds of scenarios, and you cannot measure certainty in terms of 1 or 0. So you give me the expected response or not given the expected response. It's more like you are giving me a response which is in this range of acceptability. So you need to think very differently the way that you design tests and create test scenarios, and then how you execute tests. But it's not, I will say, it's not like it's additional. It's just understanding that we are really working with a very different kind of system. So you need to really plan and execute testing in a different way. Okay. But in terms of code, which is the byproduct, it's the same. Okay. The same strict as before. No.
Yeah, I see. So one thing that comes to my mind is, and I've been thinking about this for quite a long time, is that now we are using models that are producing massive amounts of code. So I don't know, GPT-5 or Sonnet 4 are producing way more lines of code than previous versions. They are more accurate on what they do, but definitely they are adding way more complexity and way more lines to review. So what I think is that one of the use cases of AI is to go faster, but because AI is going faster, the whole pipeline in sometimes, and there are some reports say we are going slower just because it is introducing a lot of complexity, a lot of lines of code. And I think, yes, we need to use deterministic tools in order to check for AI. But my point here is, I agree with you that considering that massive amount of PRs, are we going to reduce our expectations on the quality, therefore approving faster and reducing the quality?
I start from the end. No, we cannot do that. But yes, as you mentioned, we have this risk of being overloaded because we now have the ability to have 10 coding agents and spawn 10 things in parallel. One of the things that I'm seeing, and there is a lot of conversations in the net, and you probably read this a lot, like I just asked Claude to refactor my entire code base. It was beautiful, but nothing worked. We've seen many examples of that. That's one of the, I would say, key things that I'm seeing. I'm going to say this very frankly, okay? I really hope that nobody really takes my words in the bad way, but we developers are sometimes very lazy. And this means that we just give a couple of vague requirements to the AI and we just expect that the AI is going to fix the world for us. So what I see is still, I will not say it's as practice, but it's something that start to pay out the effort. Is like not start with the AI with just two vague requirements and just let's see what happens. Then you get in return a pull request with 2,000 lines of code modified that you really cannot review. So I would say start with the AI planning. They are now, probably 2 years ago, no, but today they are very good with planning. So start with planning your work. Ask your coding agent to help you plan. No, I need to do this, I need to do that. These are my constraints, these are the things that I want to get. Please analyze existing code and help me identify what are the tasks that I need to do. Don't take this as a best prompt, but a good prompt will be in that line.
Yeah,
And with
yeah,
this
yeah.
kind of prompt, at the end, you're going to get, like after 30 minutes or 1 hour, you're going to get usually a very good report on all the things that you have asked. And also, which is typically the output, a number of tasks that takes this complex problem and slice it. What we learn in Agile, work in small batches. Again, core
Yes.
behaviors. We cannot forget the core behaviors. So we still need to work in small batches, even if we have the tool to do things massively. With this planning, you get a lot of tools. And in some of the agents, you can even say, okay, task 3 is not good. Task 5 is great. Add this task that I think that you forget. You can fine tune that plan. And then you can say, now create issues for every individual task. And then you can work in slices. So this means that you tackle this complex problem with smaller problems, which are going to be easier to review. So again, please don't take this that the absolute best practice. That is something that I think that is helping us to really do complex things without getting overwhelmed with PRs. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And on the other side, and it's something that the vendors are working and some of them are publicly announcing and speaking about that, is like AIs are getting better at creating code and helping us to create code and to review code, etc. But they should also be good and also be helping at the peer review side. So not just limit to create the code and give me these 5,000 lines of code. Please do the review yourselves.
So
So those are things that are important because you said it perfectly. We are going to be overwhelmed with all the number of PRs that we're going to get for review.
yeah, and so as you said, we are going to be overwhelmed. So what would be the the best advice you would give to students entering computer engineering school to be successful in 5 years? Because you might be heard it's like everything is changing quickly in the US. It seems that the junior entry level, especially for computer science market, is really tense at the moment. Let's say that, and so the student that entering right now, what is their best chance to be relevant when they finish school? What is your advice for them?
That's a very good question, and it's something that I've been fortunate to explore, even with, for example, with professors here from some vocational educational training schools and also from the university. Trying to share all together these views. We all come to this kind of common view in which we need to put a lot more focus on what does it mean software engineering. Okay, so the scientific approach based on hypotheses, based on things that I measure, and I take those measures to learn if my system is going well or right. So the engineering part, trying to focus more on this engineering part. This also read that this connects with systems engineering, how this works all together, how we take a real world problem and we abstract it into something that can be tackled with technology. Sometimes it will be more hardware, sometimes it will be more software, but in the end, we need to take this real world problem and transform into something that technology can solve. Okay. So all the basic principles like data structures, data flows, how to think like a computer scientist, so to speak, that's going to be the key. Of course, always learning 1 or 2 languages is going to be very good because even if we end at some point, like 10 years in the future, not coding anymore, that could happen. But I really understand what happens inside. Let me give you this with an analogy. I don't write assembler code anymore. Like 25 years ago, I would say, I did some small things in assembler. I didn't have the need to write assembly code anymore. Or even memory management, since I started working with higher level languages like Java, like .NET, like TypeScript, like Python. I don't need to care about managing the memory like we used to do in the C days. But even if I don't do that anymore as part of my work, I still need to know what is memory, how memory works, how I use efficient use of the memory. So the basic principles are going to be there. And this is happening right now, no, with these examples. I don't manage memory anymore in my code, but I still need to learn how memory works in the computer to use it effectively. So in the future, I will say, even if I don't code anymore, I need to know what is to code to really be able to connect the real world problem to the machine that is going to solve it. So always learning 1-2 languages is going to be important. This is going to help us, at least in the short future, I will say, structure is to abstract the problem. And even if at some point we code in natural language, no, spec-driven management, how you want to like it, okay, to name it, it is still not really natural language. It is not, hi, Jonathan, I have a task for you. That's never going to be that way. We are always needed to structure the problem, specify the objectives, specify the inputs, the outputs, the invariants, put examples of what is correct and what is not. We're always going to need some structure. So even if it is natural language, there is always a structure. And learn to code, at least one language, help us to move into this structuring. When COBOL started in the 70s, no, it's like anybody can do that. It's natural language, look, move, perform. That never happened because the problem was never learning to code. The problem has been always and will continue to be getting a real world problem and translate it into something that the machine can do for us, even if it is natural language.
And what is the role you think of the community of developer in this training of the students? Like how should they interact with university in order to prepare the student for the real life, basically? How do you already do that? What is done and what should be done?
Okay, so that's a very good point. And as you mentioned, something that we have already done. No? Sometimes we find that communities are very professionally oriented, so only the people that are already working move there and go there. So one of the things, for example, that we started doing here in Malaga, and I know that in other cities they're also doing as well, is like, why not host some of these community events in the university itself? At least here in Malaga, for example, the director and subdirector of the university always open, really give all the space that they have available, facilitate doing these kind of things. So this means that today, in these days, we see meetups being hosted in the university. We are seeing conferences, full-day conferences being hosted in the university. And this means that, this never changes from one day to the other, but I see this trend in which we see more and more students getting involved, even as volunteers organizing the events. So, for example, last Saturday, we have here in Malaga with Naga Fest, which is a very nice event that we have here. Is part of the DevFest movement that happens in November and October in all the world. So it was really great, not just to see a very nice event with incredible content and a lot of people. For me, it was really, really nice to see young people, students there contributing as volunteers, helping with the organization and attending and enjoying that. And I really think that as this event was hosted in the university, specifically in the computer sciences school, I think that really facilitates that all.
Yeah.
Community should be close to everyone in the community, not just the professionals, also the students. And if the students are sometimes not so eager to go to a meetup in another place, why not? Mahoma on the mountain, something like that. No, let's move the meetups and the communities and the conferences closer to the students. And I think that's important because this way they get incredible insight of what is happening, how the people that are already working on that use it, and then you also get content from top people, like happened this past week, and that's invaluable. But this means that we communities need to put our part. If we are not, we should be closer to the students and to the universities as well, and not just announcing meetup and think that everything is done. We also need to play our part in that.
Should companies like Accenture or our company Sonar should play a role in that too? Or what do you think?
Well, I've always believed that yes, okay, and I'm happy that at least in my case we do that. I remember many years ago speaking with my boss and still realizing that you cannot complain about the lack of expertise in the market if you don't do anything. And one of the ways in that you can do something is facilitate contributing to the communities. So getting your people to a conference, getting your people to speak in a conference, to go to a meetup, to host a meetup. Those are small things that are always very important because in this way, the company also play a role in connecting the people. And at the end of the day, I think it will facilitate that there is more talent and more expertise there in the market for us all. So it's something that you do also with a long-term return in mind. No?
Hmm.
So, and then of course, it's always complicated. Jonathan knows that also as well, because getting a sponsor, for example, is always very complicated. But I understand that. And sometimes it's not easy to get the money for just sponsoring. But even if you cannot do that, at least you can play a part. Well, okay, you cannot sponsor, but host me 2-3 times a year or facilitate your key people to go and to attend. So there are many sizes in which a company can play a role, but they should play a role.
Okay. We have not much time left, but I have always that question, especially with AI. Probably you see there's many reports on AI and there's many podcasts where, like if you listen to them, basically Skynet is happening in the next 5 years. And well, probably not true, but there's other type of risk, of course, that are associated with AI. There's some risk with the electricity, for example, grid, with the natural resources, the regulation, the safety, the job market. What's keep you up at night on the AI overall topic? What's the most important thing we should, let's say, think about? And so what the main point for you here, and what are your ideas on, making it better?
Okay. Well, I'm a sci-fi enthusiast. So this means that all the possible futures has already been written, as I like to say it, no? Because it's true that there has been a lot of stories being written. Skynet is probably very popular because of Terminator, but in all the classic science fiction, you get a lot of examples of things that could go wrong. So really what concerns me on what really makes me feel uneasy sometimes is not the AI replacing jobs. No, I'm sure that we are going to find the balance. Okay, we are now seeing this from the inside, but we precisely software engineering developers, we've seen this revolution happen before. I always like to say this example. At some point in the past, only big corporations could have a computer, and they have one computer. Developers were a few, and they wrote programs in paper and they tested programs in paper. And once they really thought that they had cranked the program, they asked for time at the mainframe. At the beginning with punch cards, then you have the keyboards, but it's like you have 30 minutes. You better be sure that those 30 minutes are going to be well used, because if you fail, probably you need to find some time later. So this means that we were really very productive, etc. And then at some point we started to have compilers, terminals. Everybody has a computer. Everybody could test the program 10 times a day if needed. That was not the end of software engineering. That meant that developers could do more with the time they have, and that more companies could afford to have a computer and do things. So we've already lived that revolution. And in this point in which we are, we don't have enough software in the world. There is really a lot of things to do. Many companies that are still not digitized. Even the big corporations that have a lot of budgets in IT, they always have lots and lots of projects that never get up to light because they simply don't have money to do everything. So we are still in this point in which we need to take this opportunity to do much more and to maximize our impact in the society. So this is like the short. So I am sure that we are going to find the balance. This is kind of like, call me optimistic, but it's that we are going to find that balance. So really, what really makes me feel uneasy is that when we move farther in time, like 20 years, 50 years, that we don't end like the people in the Wall-E movie, all fat and moving in platforms because they literally don't have anything to do in all day. And this is really the kind of future that I really starts me. We will find the balance, but at the same time, when we find the balance, we will need to make sure that our time is still relevant, that we still do things that provide value, that make us happy. Because this is what I think, again, call me optimistic, but I really think that this is why we are in this world, to be happy and to make others happy. That's the part that really makes me uneasy, because we humans have a long track record of causing miserable things to others. So that's really the part that, not technology again, it's humans that I'm worried about.
Why would it happen? It would happen because basically we don't need to work anymore. And so people have less work to do because AI and robots are replacing us. Or why would this kind of future happen?
That's why I mentioned Wall-E movie. No? Is if the AI and the robots does anything and the people don't have anything to do, just eat. And they were, remember, all fat and just moving in a platform because they cannot barely move. So that's really, I think, going to be the challenge. How we remain relevant and happy in the things that we do, even if we work less or don't work at all. How we find the balance, not in terms of society and cost and value, because I'm sure that we will find a way. It's more like we as humans, as beings, think that we are still relevant, because we see that a lot. Mental health is always a problem, no? People that don't feel valued, people that don't feel relevant, people that just are unhappy. Those are things that are happening even today, no? A lot, sadly. But sometimes having purpose make people to go farther, to push for their limits, to do great things. And in some sense, our history is the history of doing things that was never done before. So that's, I think, really the great challenge, how we find new frontiers to explore, new things to do, new ways to enlighten us all. So that's really the part, because our brains are really complex sometimes and tend to do bad things. But really, call me optimistic. I don't believe in the Skynet things. I am not a doomerist. I don't think that AI is going to take over the world and put all our in a pen just as slaves or something like that, or in Matrix movie just for energy. Oh my God, there are many ways of having energy cleaner and more efficient than humans. That's horrible.
Yeah.
It's more like technology is going to help us. We are going to find a way for sure, but we have the great challenge as human beings to continue being relevant and find new ways of, as I said, doing what has never done before.
I love your point of view, but from the other side, I have this idea that nowadays companies are only focusing on short-term revenue, and that we are creating a wave, a massive wave about AI in some cases, but not all the time. This wave is creating real value, not even return. A lot of, I remember IBM starting their conference in Florida the other day, and they started saying, "Hey, only 5% of companies are getting revenue out of AI," and not even mentioning which is the revenue of those 5% companies. But I have the feeling that we are producing a massive FOMO of being in AI, that this could lead to an unexpected future because we didn't put our society benefit into the equation. What do you think about that?
Well, what you say is correct, okay, and short terms is always a problem. But at the same time, I think that we will find the balance, because if a company decides that I don't need anymore this number of thousands of people and you fire them, those thousands of people are the people that buy your products and services. So if any company will fire half the people, then you have half people buying your products and services. So you collapse as a company. Even if you think that you are saving a lot of money because you are firing everyone, you collapse, because now, from that moment, nobody is there to buy your products and services because you fire them all. So they don't have money anymore. So, of course, there will be adjustments, in every revolution has been before. But at the same time, I still think that we will open opportunity to do more things. If I don't, I think that even companies, even greedy companies, will find the balance, because, as I mentioned, if I just fire everyone, probably in 1 quarter is going to be very okay, but then I'm going to collapse. So we will find the balance. Only positive, and I'm very optimistic on that. But I think that we will find the balance. We all collectively will find the balance for that.
Okay. Yeah. So it's almost time, unfortunately, and we're already over time, and it's really great to talk to you. I would like to really conclude this first interview, really again with a message of hope, but also like how to be prepared. So me, I have 2 children. They are 3 and 7. And I would love to know, like, what's your advice for them? You know, they will be on the market in 20 years. So what should I tell them? What's your advice for like very young generation?
Okay, well, my children are a bit older, no? They are 15 and 18. The older ones starting university, etc. So probably I always told to him still apply. It's like learn as much as possible for many different things. Use the school not just to memorize things. No, it's like you are getting exposed to many different things in many different disciplines. Leverage what you have in the internet, etc., to learn things and explore, and then find what you like. And that's the important thing. Do what you like. And if in 10 years it's not relevant, we will find another thing, because our history is a story of transformation and changing, etc. So I think that is always the matter of be happy, to be satisfied with what I'm doing. That's what I told my kids, and I hope that they grow well and healthy with that. Is like, pick what you like, do what you like. And then if that doesn't work, adapt. Or if there is something better, adapt, because that's our life, adapting and changing. No? So even for smaller ones, probably it's still good advice, I would say. And they also have a very good advantage compared with us. They now have a much wider world to look at. Our views in the 80s was, were narrowed just to a neighborhood, and maybe you went to a place on vacation and knew people from other cities, but that was all. They really have all the world to explore. So that's
Okay.
great. And do what they like, what they prefer.
Just wrapping up. If you were kind of Gandalf, or I don't know, if you had the only ring, what would be the thing that you would change now related to AI? And also, what is the thing that you love the most about AI?
Okay, change one thing. Probably my desire will be that everyone, no matter where they are, their origins or whatever, really will have the ability to think a bit more like a computer scientist, even if not dedicating to that professionally. But I think that those abilities will help them to really work well in this AI world. Think a bit more like computer scientists. I always think like that. So if I will say, okay, everybody has done like first grade or something like that in computer science. So because I really think that the future is for those that really want or learn or know how to use an AI to their benefit. No? But I know that not all the people have the same opportunities and same access to the things. So that probably will be I will change that. What's the thing that I like the most about AI? I think that really we now have an opportunity to maximize our impact. Okay. And we developers has always been very bad to put ourselves as something valuable in the society. Well, the informatics, this is a developer one. We are always the geeky one, freaky ones, or just no. We've never really been good at explaining the society why we are important. Now we can maximize that, and I think it's also a good opportunity with AI that everyone looks. This is important. Look at all those things. I was a part of that. We are like we are. We have our personalities. We tend to be on one specific way of things, so to speak, and we are not good in giving up speak out of our value. But that's a thing that I like it with AI. Now we can maximize our impact and really, hopefully, the society appreciate all the work that we do for everything to move and be prosper.
Okay. So yeah, closing the podcast. We've run out of time. Well, time ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, wanted to thank you for presenting here, and it's been awesome as always talking to you. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. And probably with pleasure. Of course, we could interview you again, and maybe, or we plan as well, maybe to do some debate with other people in the field, and we'll let you know. I hope that it was interesting for audience.